Welcome back. You are watching Focus on Africa. The United States says it isn't threatened by increasing Chinese and Russian influence in Africa. That's according to the Deputy Secretary of the United States Treasury, Wally Adeyemo, who was talking in Nigeria, the country of his birth. He says his two-day visit to Lagos is to further boost economic relations through business partnerships between the United States and Africa. Mr. Adeyemo was speaking in an exclusive interview with our West Africa business reporter, Nkechi Ogbonna. She began by asking him if the U.S. was feeling pressured to shore up its relations with the continent.
We see real business opportunity here to do business in Nigeria with Nigerians and to help grow the Nigerian economy. Our visits are part of that, building a deeper partnership that's both strategic and also economic. That's why we're spending time on the continent, because we know that Africa is a young continent filled with potential, and we want to make sure that that potential has opportunity, because that opportunity for them will create economic opportunities here in Africa, but also for American companies and for Americans.
So this is not a new scramble for Africa?
The United States has been engaged in Africa for decades. You look back to PEPFAR under the Bush administration, and Power Africa under the Obama administration, and AGOA, which has been a productive program that has allowed Africa to sell goods and services in America. There are all ways in which we've tried to deepen our relationship. That's exactly what this is.
African economies have debts that are denominated in the US dollar. And so when there is inflation, it also increases the interest rates on this debt. Servicing these debts become very expensive. So what do you think can be done to help some of these economies?
One of the things that's going to be critical is making sure that they have sustainable economies going forward. For a few, they have needed to take advantage of debt relief. And that's been done through the common framework. And the United States has worked with countries like Ghana to make sure that they've been able to get the type of debt relief they need going forward. So ultimately, the United States wants to partner with the countries that may need debt relief through the common framework, working with the Paris Club and other lenders, but also to help provide advice in ways that the countries can help themselves build up the fiscal resources they need to both manage their debt but invest in their people.
Your office announced sanctions in Sudan on the RSF recently, but we do not see that same energy, given to the armed forces.
So I want to be clear that we have used the sanction tool we've used sanctions and sanctioned on both sides. But ultimately, the reason that we're using these sanctions is to try and drive behavioral change. Our goal is to make sure that the conflict and violence ends as quickly as possible, and sanctions are a tool towards that.
Sanctions imposed on Russia have seen their consequences meted out on countries in sub-Saharan Africa. We've seen huge inflation, we've seen food insecurity rise in recent years. Don't you think that Africa is somewhat bearing a form of collateral damage to these worrying factors?
Vladimir Putin has decided that he was going to bomb food convoys in Ukraine, going to eliminate the ability to export food from Ukraine ports, to end a Black Sea grain deal that was helping to get grain to places like Africa. So he's responsible for raising the price of both food and energy. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is alleviate those challenges by providing greater resources through the international financial institutions, including the World Bank, to countries like Nigeria and Egypt and others who need it. But what we know to be clear is that until Putin's war on Ukraine ends, we're going to face the type of instability in the region, but also economic consequences from that war. So it's important that that invasion end as soon as possible.